It was a mild Friday evening in the city. John and Lisa had decided to have dinner at home. The table was meticulously set, reflecting the care they both put into their life together. Candles were lit, soft music played in the background, and a delicious aroma wafted from the kitchen where John was finishing the main course, shrimp risotto, Lisa's favorite. While he patiently stirred the risotto, Lisa was finishing setting the table. She seemed a bit distracted, perhaps even nervous, but John, focused on perfecting his dish, didn't notice right away. When they finally sat down, dinner started with light conversation about work and weekend plans. Everything seemed to be going as usual until Lisa decided to bring up a topic that had been on her mind for weeks. "John, we need to talk about something important," Lisa said, in a serious tone that immediately captured John's attention. He looked up from his plate, noticing the worried expression on her face. "Of course, Lisa. What's going on?" he asked, putting his fork aside and focusing entirely on her. Lisa took a deep breath, gathering the courage to say what she had been rehearsing. "I've been thinking a lot about our relationship. And I've come to the conclusion that before we fully commit, I need to explore other possibilities." John was silent, processing the information. He hadn't seen this coming. His eyes studied Lisa's face, trying to understand the depth of her revelation. "Explore other possibilities? What exactly do you mean by that?" "I mean, getting to know other men," Lisa replied, her voice trembling but firm. "I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I need to be sure you're the right person for me, and the only way to do that is by having other experiences." John took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. He had always prided himself on being a balanced person, but at that moment, he felt an emotional storm brewing inside him. "So, you're saying you want to date other people while we're still together?" he asked, trying to keep his voice neutral, though a hint of pain was noticeable. Lisa nodded, her eyes full of uncertainty. "Yes, that's it. I know it sounds selfish, but I need to do this to understand my feelings better. I still love you, John, but I need this clarity." John remained silent for a moment, looking at the table as if the answer was hidden among the dishes. Finally, he raised his head and spoke calmly, though sadness was evident in his eyes. "Lisa, I understand you need clarity, but this is very hard to accept. We've built so much together, and now you want to give it all up to explore other possibilities. It's not giving up, John. It's trying to understand better. I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to live with doubts," Lisa replied, trying to hold back tears. "I need some time to process this," John said, standing up from the table. "I'm going to step away for now. I need to think." Lisa looked at him, surprised by the calm he still managed to maintain. "Please, don't go. Let's talk more about this." "I need time, Lisa." "We need time," John said before leaving the room and heading to the guest bedroom. He closed the door behind him, leaving Lisa alone at the table, feeling the weight of her words and the possible consequences of her revelation. While John was in the guest bedroom, he threw himself onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. He had always believed his relationship with Lisa was solid, that they were ready to take the next step. But now, everything seemed to be falling apart. He felt a mix of sadness, anger, and confusion. He knew he needed to make a decision. On the other side of the door, Lisa sat at the table, tears finally streaming down her face. She knew she had hurt John deeply, but she also knew she needed to be honest with herself. She wanted clarity in her feelings, but now she wondered if she was willing to pay the price for it. The next morning, John emerged from the guest bedroom with a clear decision in his mind. He found Lisa in the living room. "Lisa, I thought a lot about what you said last night," he began, his voice firm but gentle. "And I've decided that I need some time away from here. I can't just stay while you explore other possibilities." Lisa looked at him, feeling a pang of fear. "You're leaving, John. You're going to leave me?" "I'm going to pack my things and leave the house for a while," John said, trying to stay calm. "But, John, I don't want to lose you, Lisa said, desperate. I just need clarity. I know, Lisa. And that's why I'm doing this, John responded before heading to the bedroom to pack his things. As John packed his bags, Lisa felt a deep pain in her chest. She knew her actions had consequences, but she hadn't imagined they would be so immediate and painful. She wanted to run to him, to ask him to stay, but she knew he was determined to leave. When John finished packing, he headed for the door, where Lisa was waiting with tears in her eyes. John, please, just promise me this isn't a final goodbye, she implored. I can't promise that, John said, giving her one last hug before walking out the door. And so, John left the home he shared with Lisa, leaving her alone with her thoughts and regrets. John was lost. After leaving the house he shared with Lisa, he found himself wandering the streets, not quite sure where to go. The cold night air seemed to reflect the emptiness and confusion inside him. His emotions were raw, and he needed a place where he could breathe, think, and hopefully find some clarity. That's when he remembered Michael. Michael was an old friend of John's. They had known each other since high school, and although their lives had taken different paths over the years, their friendship remained solid. Michael had gone through a similar situation a few years earlier when his fiancée left him to explore other relationships. John knew that if anyone could understand what he was going through, it was Michael. John took out his phone and called his friend. After a few rings, Michael answered. Hello, said Michael, his voice groggy. Michael, it's me, John, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. John. Man, what happened? Are you okay? Michael's concern was evident. I need a place to stay, just for a while. Can I come over? Of course, buddy. Come over. I'll be waiting for you. John thanked him and hung up, feeling a momentary relief. He hailed a taxi and headed to Michael's house, which was in a quiet neighborhood in the city. When he arrived, Michael was already at the door, waiting for him. Come in, John. Let's talk, said Michael, pulling his friend into a comforting hug. Inside the house, Michael brewed a strong coffee and the two sat in the living room. The look of concern on Michael's face did not go unnoticed by John. So, what happened? Michael asked, handing John a cup of coffee. John sighed deeply before beginning to tell the story. He recounted the dinner with Lisa, her revelation about wanting to explore other men, and his decision to leave the house. Michael listened attentively, without interrupting, allowing John to vent. Man, that's heavy, Michael commented after a moment of silence. But I know exactly how you're feeling. I went through something similar, remember? John nodded. He remembered well what Michael had gone through, and it made him feel a little less alone. I don't know what to do, Michael. I feel betrayed, confused, and lost. First, you need a place to stay and some time to calm down and think. You can stay here as long as you need, said Michael, putting a hand on John's shoulder. But beyond that, you need clarity. It's easy to let emotions take over, but try to keep a clear mind. John thanked his friend for his hospitality and advice. In the days that followed, he settled into Michael's house, trying to find some peace amidst the emotional chaos he was experiencing. Michael, for his part, made sure to be present, offering support and wisdom. One night, while they were watching a football game on TV, Michael decided to approach the subject more directly. John, have you thought about what you really want to do about Lisa? He asked, turning off the TV. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her, but another part feels like that would be a mistake, John replied, looking thoughtful. That's understandable. Trust is hard to rebuild. But you also need to think about what's best for you, not just emotionally, but practically as well. Michael paused before continuing. You know, when I went through this, I needed some time for myself. I went to therapy, traveled, tried to reconnect with myself before making any decisions. Therapy. John looked surprised. Did that really help you? Yes, it helped a lot. The therapist helped me understand my feelings and make clearer, more rational decisions. It also made me realize that I'm not responsible for other people's choices, only my own. John pondered Michael's words. Maybe therapy was something to consider. He needed all the tools he could get to deal with the whirlwind of emotions and uncertainties he was facing. I'll think about it, Michael. Thanks for sharing your experience, said John, with a slight smile. In the following days, Lisa tried to contact John, but all her attempts were in vain. He didn't answer her calls, didn't respond to her messages, and seemed to have completely disappeared. Lisa felt desperate and at the same time guilty. She knew she had to face the consequences of her actions and find a way to repair the damage she had caused. Lisa still couldn't believe what she saw when she entered the house, the empty space where John's belongings used to be. The absence of his clothes in the closet, his books on the shelves, and even his toothbrush in the bathroom was a harsh blow of reality. She felt lost and helpless, not knowing how to fix the situation she had created. In her despair, she decided to seek out Emily, her best friend and confidant, who had been the main encourager of her idea to explore other men before fully committing to John. Lisa picked up the phone and called Emily. After a few rings, her friend answered with her usual enthusiasm. Hey, Lisa. How are you? Emily. Lisa's voice was trembling. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Sensing the gravity in Lisa's voice, Emily responded promptly. Of course, friend. Come over to my place. I'll be waiting for you. When she arrived at Emily's house, Lisa was greeted with a warm hug. The two sat down on the couch, and Lisa began to pour out her heart. Emily, John is gone. He took all his things and left the house. I don't know what to do. Emily, initially shocked, tried to calm her friend. Calm down, Lisa. We'll figure this out together. Tell me everything from the beginning. Lisa took a deep breath and began to recount the events of the previous night, from the revealing dinner to discovering the empty house. Emily listened attentively, but as Lisa spoke, Emily's expression changed from concern to regret. Lisa, I'm so sorry. I think I gave you terrible advice, admitted Emily, with a remorseful look. I genuinely thought exploring other possibilities might help you be sure of your feelings for John, but now I see it did more harm than good. Lisa, still in shock from the situation, didn't know how to react to Emily's confession. I just wanted to be sure, you know, said Lisa, tears in her eyes. I didn't want to hurt John. I love him, but now it feels like I've destroyed everything. Emily gripped Lisa's hand firmly. We'll fix this, Lisa. I promise. But first, we need to understand what you really want. Do you want to explore other possibilities, or do you want to win John back? Lisa didn't hesitate. I want John back. I know I was selfish and reckless. He's the man of my life, and I need to fix this. Emily sighed deeply, feeling the weight of her words. Then let's start there. You need to show him that you're sorry and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to regain his trust. The two friends spent hours talking, discussing the best way to approach the situation. Emily suggested that Lisa write a sincere letter to John, expressing her feelings and regret. Lisa agreed with the suggestion, but she knew it would take more than words to win John back. In the following days, Lisa tried to contact John several times, but he didn't answer her calls or respond to her messages. She then decided to follow Emily's advice and write the letter. Sitting at the kitchen table, with a notebook and pen in hand, Lisa began to pour her heart out onto the pages, recalling the happy moments they shared and acknowledging her mistakes. Meanwhile, Emily also reflected on her role in the situation. She realized that her advice had been impulsive and didn't consider the consequences for Lisa and John's relationship. She felt guilty and responsible for the pain her friend was going through. On one of the days they met, Emily was honest with Lisa about her feelings. Lisa, I need to tell you something. I feel terribly guilty about all this. I really thought you needed time to explore other options, but I didn't take into account how much it could hurt John and you too. I'm so sorry. Lisa, though hurt, knew her friend had acted with good intentions, even if misguided. I understand, Emily. I know you were only trying to help, but now we need to focus on how to fix this. I just hope it's not too late. The relationship between Lisa and Emily was tense for a while, but their friendship was strong enough to survive the crisis. Both were determined to correct their mistakes and learn from the experience. After many days without a response from John, Lisa decided to go to Michael's house, John's friend. She knew John was staying there and needed to speak to him face to face. When she arrived, Michael greeted her with a cautious look. Lisa, I know you're sorry, but John needs time. He's very hurt, said Michael, trying to be fair to both of them. I understand, Michael. I just need him to know that I'm willing to do anything to regain his trust. Please, let me talk to him, even if it's just for a few minutes. Michael hesitated but decided to give her a chance. Okay. I'll call him, but I can't promise he'll want to talk to you. John appeared at the door, his expression serious and weary. Lisa, with tears in her eyes, approached him. John, I know I hurt you deeply. I was selfish and didn't think about the consequences of my actions. I'm here to ask for your forgiveness and to say that I'm willing to do anything to fix our relationship. John looked at her for a moment, his face stern, but his eyes revealed the pain he felt. Lisa, I need time. Your words are nice, but I need to see actions. I need to know you've really changed and that this won't happen again. Lisa nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I'll prove it to you, John. I'll show you that I'm sorry and that I love you more than anything in this world. Please, give me a chance. John didn't respond immediately, but the simple fact that he had listened gave Lisa a glimmer of hope. Lisa's life was in turmoil. After John's abrupt departure, she found herself alone, burdened with immense guilt. She tried to stay strong, but the reality was that her mind was in constant conflict. The situation at home had crumbled, and now its effects were starting to spill over into her professional life. She arrived at the office that Monday with dark circles under her eyes and a weary expression. She couldn't hide her sadness and worry. Her boss, Ricardo, a stern and observant man, immediately noticed the change in her demeanor. Lisa, can I speak with you in my office for a moment? He asked, his tone a mix of concern and authority. Lisa nodded, knowing that the conversation wouldn't be easy. She entered Ricardo's office and sat down in the chair across from his desk, trying to find the right words. Lisa, you know I've always valued your work. You're one of the best here. But over the past few weeks, I've noticed a significant drop in your performance. Is there something going on that you'd like to share? Ricardo asked, looking her straight in the eye. Lisa hesitated for a moment before responding. I'm going through some personal issues, Ricardo. I'm trying to handle everything, but I admit it's been tough. Ricardo frowned and took a deep breath. I understand that personal problems can affect our work, but I need you to recover quickly. We have an important project underway, and your contribution is essential. She nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility increase. I know, Ricardo. I promise I'll do my best to get back to my usual self. Ricardo observed her for a few more seconds before responding. I hope so, Lisa. We're counting on you. As she left Ricardo's office, Lisa felt a lump in her throat. She knew she needed to get her personal life in order to keep her job. But it seemed like an enormous task. The situation at work became even more complicated when some colleagues started gossiping about her personal life. Amy and Lucas, two co-workers who were always more curious than they should be, began speculating about the reasons for Lisa's decline in performance. Did you hear what happened with Lisa? Amy whispered to Lucas in the coffee room. Apparently, she and her boyfriend broke up. They say she was exploring other guys before committing. Lucas widened his eyes. Really? I didn't know she was like that. The whispers and gossip spread quickly throughout the office, creating an even more hostile environment for Lisa. She felt the stares and whispers wherever she went, increasing her anxiety and pressure. During a coffee break, Lisa found Emily, her friend and confidant during difficult times, who also worked at the same company. Emily, who had initially encouraged Lisa to explore other men, now felt a huge weight of guilt for her words. "Lisa, we need to talk," said Emily, pulling her to a more private corner of the office. Lisa looked at her with a mix of anger and sadness. "What is it, Emily? Haven't I gotten into enough trouble by following your advice?" Emily sighed deeply. "I know I messed up, Lisa. I thought I was helping you, but now I see I only made things worse. I'm really sorry." Lisa shook her head, trying to hold back tears. "It doesn't matter anymore, Emily. The damage is done. John is gone, and now my job is at risk. I don't know what to do." Emily held Lisa's hand, trying to offer some comfort. "We'll find a way to fix this. I'm here to help, truly." Lisa knew Emily was being sincere, but the situation seemed increasingly hopeless. She needed to focus and find a solution to save her job and, perhaps, her sanity. In the following days, Lisa tried her best to concentrate on work. She immersed herself in projects, staying late at the office and trying to ignore the stares and whispers. But the pressure was immense, and each mistake, no matter how small, felt like another step towards the abyss. On a particularly difficult afternoon, Ricardo called her into his office again. He had a serious and worried expression. "Lisa, I understand you're going through a tough time, but we need results. I've received some complaints about your performance, and it's starting to affect the team." Lisa felt a chill down her spine. "I'm doing my best, Ricardo. Please, give me another chance. I can improve." Ricardo sighed, seeming to ponder his words. "I'll give you one more week to show some improvement. If there's no progress, I'll have to reconsider your position here." She left Ricardo's office with an even heavier burden on her shoulders. The situation was becoming unsustainable. She needed to find a solution quickly. That night, Lisa went home and collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. She picked up the phone and, after hesitating for a few minutes, decided to call John. She needed to hear his voice, even if he didn't want to talk to her. "Hello." John answered with a cold and distant voice. "John, it's me, Lisa. I just wanted to hear your voice. I'm going through a really tough time at work, and all of this is destroying me." There was a long silence on the other end of the line before John responded. "Lisa, you made your choices. Now you need to deal with the consequences." She felt the tears rolling down her face. "I know, John. I know I messed up. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix things, but it's really hard." John sighed, and Lisa could feel the pain and frustration in his voice. "I hope you find a way, Lisa. But I can't help you right now. I need time for myself too." After hanging up, Lisa felt even more lost. She knew she needed to pull herself together, but every step seemed like the ground was disappearing beneath her feet. The next morning, Lisa scheduled a session with a therapist recommended by a longtime friend. Dr. Helena's office was a few blocks from her apartment, and she decided to walk there, hoping the walk would help clear her mind. The fresh morning air and the movement of people on the streets provided her with a much-needed moment of introspection. When she arrived at the office, Lisa was greeted by Dr. Helena, a middle-aged woman with a welcoming look and a demeanor that exuded confidence and understanding. After the initial introductions, Lisa sat on the comfortable couch in the office, feeling a bit anxious but determined to be honest. "So, Lisa, what brings you here today?" Dr. Helena asked, her tone gentle. Lisa took a deep breath before responding, I made a big mistake. I told my boyfriend that I wanted to explore other men before fully committing to him. He got hurt and decided to leave. Now I'm alone and trying to understand why I did it. Dr. Helena made a quick note in her pad before looking back at Lisa. It sounds like you're going through a very difficult time. Let's explore this together. Tell me more about your feelings and what led you to make that decision. Lisa began to talk about her relationship with John, how they met, the good times, and how the relationship had become a fundamental part of her life. As she spoke, tears started to roll down her face. I love him, Dr. Helena. I miss him every day. But at the same time, there was a part of me that felt curious, that wanted to know what else was out there. I don't know where this need comes from. The therapist nodded understandingly. It's natural to feel curiosity, Lisa. But the important thing is to understand where this need comes from and how it relates to your emotions and past experiences. We'll work on this together. In the weeks that followed, Lisa attended therapy sessions regularly. Each session was an opportunity for her to delve deeper into her own feelings and experiences. Dr. Helena guided her with insightful questions and reflection exercises that helped her uncover layers of her psyche she had never explored. In one of these sessions, Lisa revealed something she had kept hidden for many years. When I was a teenager, my parents had a very messy divorce. My mom always said my dad wasn't enough for her, and she wanted to explore other options. I think, in some way, I internalized that and brought it into my own relationships, Lisa confessed, her voice trembling. Dr. Helena looked at her with empathy. That makes a lot of sense, Lisa. Our childhood and adolescent experiences can profoundly impact our behaviors and choices in adulthood. Now that you recognize this, we can work to change these patterns. Over time, Lisa began to realize that her need to explore other relationships wasn't really about other men, but about her own insecurities and fears of fully committing. She understood that she was repeating a behavior pattern she had witnessed in her family and that she needed to break this cycle to be truly happy. During a particularly revealing session, Lisa shared an insight she had recently had. Dr. Helena, I think I've always been afraid of not being enough. Afraid that if I fully committed to John, he would eventually realize I wasn't good enough and leave me. Maybe that's the real reason I wanted to explore other relationships. I was trying to protect my heart from potential rejection. The therapist smiled, proud of Lisa's progress. That's a major breakthrough, Lisa. Recognizing our deepest fears is the first step to overcoming them. Now, we can work on building your self-esteem and confidence so you can commit without fear. As the months went by, Lisa continued her process of self-exploration and growth. She began participating in activities that made her feel good about herself, like yoga and painting classes. She also resumed hobbies she had abandoned, like reading and writing, finding in them a source of comfort and self-expression. In time, Lisa felt stronger and more confident. She knew there was still a long way to go, but she also knew she was on the right path. Her sessions with Dr. Helena continued to be a source of support and guidance, helping her navigate her emotions and build a solid foundation for her future. Eventually, Lisa decided to contact John. Lisa was sitting in her living room, staring at the papers scattered across the table in front of her. They were sheets of letter paper, some scribbled on, some crumpled, and several still blank. She was trying to write a letter to John. A letter that expressed everything she was feeling, all the regrets and all the apologies that needed to be said. But the more she wrote, the more it seemed like words weren't enough. How can I fix this? She thought out loud, gripping the pen tightly. She remembered every detail of the night John left. The sound of his suitcases being dragged out the door, the deafening silence that followed, and the crushing pain of realizing he was really gone. Since then, everything in Lisa's life seemed to be falling apart. Her friendship with Emily was hanging by a thread, her performance at work had plummeted, and, most of all, she felt John's absence in a way she never imagined possible. Finally, after hours of reflection, Lisa began to write. Dear John, I know my words may seem empty after everything I did and said. But please, give me a chance to explain what's in my heart. Since you left, I've been living in a whirlwind of regret and pain. I realized how much you mean to me and how selfish and foolish I was to suggest exploring other relationships. I was confused, insecure, and perhaps a bit influenced by advice that didn't truly reflect what I feel for you. I know this doesn't justify my actions, but I want you to know that I am deeply sorry and willing to do anything to regain your trust and love. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. However, I am humbling myself completely by writing this letter, hoping that you can somehow see how much I am willing to change. I am willing to be completely submissive to you, accept your conditions, and make any necessary sacrifices so that we can someday rebuild what we lost. With love and regret, Lisa. With trembling hands, she placed the letter in an envelope and sealed it. The next day, she left the letter at Michael's house, where she knew John was temporarily staying. When John received the letter, he was sitting at Michael's small kitchen table, having breakfast. Michael, who had just made some toast, looked at his friend with a worried expression. "Are you going to open it?" Michael asked, placing the toast on John's plate. John sighed deeply, looking at the envelope for a long moment before finally tearing it open and taking out the letter. As he read, his expression changed from curiosity to a mixture of sadness and reflection. "What does it say?" Michael asked, although he already had an idea of the content. John placed the letter on the table and rubbed his eyes with his free hand. "She's sorry. Very sorry. She says she's willing to be completely submissive to me, to do anything to regain my trust." Michael nodded slowly. "And what are you going to do?" John remained silent for a long time, staring at the letter. He still loved Lisa, but the pain of betrayal and the need to maintain his self-respect left him torn. "I don't know, Michael. Part of me wants to forgive her, to try again. But another part of me is afraid of going through this again." Michael placed a hand on John's shoulder and spoke firmly. "You need to do what's best for you, John. If there's still love, maybe it's worth trying. But remember, trust takes time to rebuild." On a rainy afternoon, John decided he needed to see Lisa in person. He needed to look into her eyes and hear her words directly. John picked up the phone and called her. Lisa's heart nearly stopped when she saw his name on the screen. "Hello?" she said, trying not to let her anxiety show in her voice. "Lisa, it's John. I read your letter. We need to talk." "Of course, John. I can come over, if you want." "No. I'll come to your place. I'll be there in an hour." When John arrived, Lisa was waiting at the door, nervous and anxious. Seeing him, she almost cried with relief, but she held back. They entered the house and sat in the living room, where so many memories had been made. "John, please, let me explain," Lisa began. "I read your letter, Lisa." "You don't need to repeat what you wrote," John said, with a calmness that hid the storm inside him. "What I need to know is, why did you do it? What made you think that exploring other men was the solution?" Lisa took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "John, I was scared. Scared of fully committing and then realizing I hadn't explored all my options. I know it was selfish and immature, and I deeply regret it. I was listening to the wrong advice and didn't think about the consequences." John nodded, still conflicted. "And what has changed now, Lisa? Why should I believe that you truly want to change?" "Because, John, I realize that nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth more than our relationship. I am willing to do anything to prove that to you. I sought help, I'm going to therapy, and I'm working on myself. I know you have no reason to trust me now, but I'm here, willing to do whatever it takes to regain your trust." John looked at her for a long moment, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. He knew it wouldn't be easy, that it would take time and effort from both sides. But he also knew that the love he felt for Lisa was still there, pulsing in his chest. "Lisa, I still love you. But trust takes time to rebuild. I need to see actions, not just words." Lisa quickly nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand, John. And I'm willing to do that. Whatever you need, I'll do it." John took a deep breath before speaking. "I want to make it clear that if we're going to try again, it will be on my terms. You need to understand that trust was broken and regaining it won't be easy. Do you agree to that?" Lisa nodded. "I agree, John. I'm willing to do anything to fix what I've done." John then began to list his conditions, which included a level of submission and control that he felt was necessary for him to feel secure in the relationship again. He imposed a regime of physical punishments and humiliations that Lisa would have to accept without question. To many, this might seem extreme, but for John, it was a way to test Lisa's true change and her sincerity in wanting to fix the relationship. "I know this might seem harsh, Lisa," John continued. "But I need this to feel secure. If you truly love me and want this to work, you need to accept these conditions. Are you willing to do that?" Lisa looked directly into John's eyes and responded with conviction. "Yes, John. I'm willing to accept your conditions. I want to prove to you that I'm a different person now, that I've learned from my mistakes and that I'm committed to making this work." And so, they began a new phase in their relationship. Lisa moved into John's house under the new rules he imposed. Each day was a test of her devotion and sincerity. John imposed a strict regime of submission, where Lisa had to follow his orders without question. He believed that through this dynamic, he could assess Lisa's true change. One night, after a long day of work, John summoned Lisa to the office. He was sitting in his chair, with a serious expression. "Lisa, today you failed to follow my instructions. You know what that means, right?" John asked, looking at her intently. Lisa lowered her head, feeling the weight of the situation. "Yes, John. I understand. I'm ready to accept the consequence." John stood up and walked over to her. "Then, kneel," he ordered firmly. Lisa obeyed without hesitation. John administered the punishment, and although it was painful, Lisa endured it without complaint. She knew this was her way of proving her loyalty and love for John. Meanwhile, John observed her reactions carefully, looking for signs of sincerity. Despite the harsh conditions, there were moments of tenderness between them. John, as strict as he was, still had a deep affection for Lisa. He didn't enjoy the punishments but saw them as a necessity to rebuild trust. "You're doing well, Lisa," John said one night, as he gently stroked her face. "I'm starting to believe you've really changed." Those words were all Lisa needed to hear. They encouraged her to keep going, to prove she was worthy of John's love. She continued her therapy sessions, exploring her motivations and better understanding her past actions. Each session was a step towards redemption. Time passed, and Lisa consistently demonstrated her dedication to the new arrangement. John, despite maintaining the strictness of the rules, began to see that Lisa's change was genuine. She wasn't just following his orders but truly transforming into someone more conscious and responsible. One day John walked into the living room and saw Lisa crying over the photo album. He approached her silently and, for a moment, felt a pang of regret. But he quickly suppressed that feeling and asked, "Why are you crying, Lisa?" She, wiping away her tears, replied, "I just miss how things used to be." "John, can I ask you a question?" Lisa said, wiping away her tears. "Sure, Lisa. What do you want to know?" John replied, looking at her with curiosity. "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me completely?" she asked, with a hopeful tone in her voice. John sighed. "I don't know, Lisa. That's not something I can guarantee right now. But I see that you're really trying, and that means a lot to me." Finally, that night, after seeing Lisa's sadness, John decided it was time to reveal his true intention. He called Lisa for a serious conversation. "Lisa, I want to talk to you," John began, his voice firm but with a touch of gentleness. "These past few months have been a test. A test to see if you really changed, if you were truly sorry for what you did." Lisa looked at him, surprised. "A test," she repeated, not knowing how to react. She had accepted John's conditions without question, believing it was the only way to regain his trust. "Yes," John continued. "I needed to know if your remorse was real, if you were willing to do anything to fix what happened between us. And you proved that you were." He paused, observing Lisa's expression. She was confused, but there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "So, what does this mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. John took a deep breath before responding. "It means that I forgive you, Lisa. I truly forgive you. And I want us to start over, but in a different way. Not with submission and control, but with respect and equality." John's words were a shock to Lisa. She felt a wave of emotion wash over her, tears starting to fall from her eyes. "You're saying that we can try again? As equals?" John nodded. "Yes, Lisa. I want us to have a healthy relationship, based on trust and mutual respect. I know you've changed, I've seen it. And I want us to build something new, something better. I still love you." Lisa couldn't hold back her tears of joy. "Yes, John. I want that more than anything." And so, they began a new chapter in their lives, renewing the love and trust they had lost. The journey was tough, but both emerged stronger and more aware of what truly mattered in a relationship. Together, they were ready to face the future, with a renewed love and restored trust.